You know, it's however you feel, but you just have to fit it between that space, that little space that you got, which is one. You know, one. You know, one. And then you would try to fit your different notes, but you felt in between it, like. You know, and that's the funk. You know, you know, and you can change that. You know, and that's the funk. And you can change that.
True essence of the funk is the power of the one. It's the power of the one. of the funk is the power of the one, Bob. One!
Hey fam, what's goody good? What's really good? My name is Jeff Roberson from the gospel group called Jeff Roberson and New Life. And I'm coming to you from the town that we had to name it twice. It's so nice. New York, New York. And I'm bringing you some news about my brother from another mother, Brother Zach, who's bringing you his hot new show called Funk from the Front Seat. Listen, he's bringing you funk from the vault, from the past, from the present, and into the future. He's got that music that makes the hair on the back of your neck rise up. He's bringing you funk all the way down to your toes. This is that funk that makes you really want to groove. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial as he brings you funk from the front seat. Listen, let's go.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to another edition of Funk from the Front Seat. We are back live here today. Yes, coming to you top of the #1 Bimini Road over here in North Carolina in Durham. Hanging out. We got a very special guest today coming on. Anjanae Bell is coming on, and she's running for mayor of this town, and we're going to try to give her our full platform so she can, offer some things and let y'all know what she stands for and, talk about her legacy with her dad, who was actually, very involved in politics here in North Carolina. So we're going to welcome her in a little bit. My name is Zach Robson. I'm your host right now. Number 9, Funk from the Front Seat, Club Funketeer Vice President, also leader of the Funk Army, Nappy Head Funk Army, and Nappy Head Funk Army 2.0. So forgive me, my voice is a little scraggly. I'm a little bit under the weather, but you know what they say, the show must go on. My producer back there, Mr. Mark Lee, always funky, always fast, always classy, never laughs. The man behind the glass, keeping it real for me, bringing on beautiful guests like this beautiful lady that's getting ready to come on. I had the opportunity to chat with her past couple of months, at a town hall kind of thing meeting. We were talking about, arts and grants and things like that. So we'll have her on in a little bit. But, I did have some other things that I was going to discuss. If you have any birthdays or any anniversaries or any transitions out there today, please hit us up. Let us know. And also, I want you guys' opinion, and you guys can go back and watch this show. We always do clips and reruns and everything else about this crazy, crazy weather we've been having all across the country. I don't know if it has a lot to do with the vibe, the earth, and the political climate obviously is very robust right now, and everybody's choosing sides back into whichever corner that they're going to decide to fight from. And I think that's a mistake. I think we should actually just be fighting towards one thing, and that's justice, that's peace, that's love, that's harmony, and that's whatever democracy we can get back in the bottle, because the genie's already out of the bottle, the horse has left the barn, and this dude is running amok. And we all know what I'm talking about. So don't pretend like you don't. Because if you sit there and you pretend like you do not, you are going to be part of the problem and not part of the solution. And we want everybody to be part of the solution. Because believe me, sooner or later, it's going to get to something that does affect you. And then you'll see, how you'll have to deal with that accordingly. But if we can get ahead of the game and we can try to stop some of this madness, then maybe, just maybe, we got a shot over the next couple of years to try to get some of this stuff back, this normalcy. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the programs that are being cut, a lot of the government spending that they claim is not necessary actually is a necessary thing. We got floods, we got famines, we got fires, we got homelessness, we got all these problems. And that's why, Anjanae is coming on today, because, her platform, Housing and Healing, Opportunity and Ownership, Safety and Trust, with the police and the government officials, as well as environmental and educational issues that come across. And also, my pet peeve, obviously, is the crime in the cities, in the streets. Why are there so many drugs and guns here when obviously we don't own any ship lines or or airplane lines or trucking lines that actually can bring all this stuff in. So I'm not really sure what's going on back there with Mark, but I guess you let me know. And as soon as our guest gets here, we'll go ahead and get this show started. But I can tell you a little bit about her. She was born in Fort Riley, Kansas, but she, obviously has been living here for quite some time now. And also, she seems to be one that touches base with the people through one of her gigs that she was doing as far as driving Uber and Lyft. I was reading her bio about, she feels that that's something that she can, exploit and really understand, the everyday working man and woman and teenager out here trying to survive. I can honestly tell you, I think everybody right now is at 50-50. It could go either way, and the summer really is just getting started, even though we're midway July, which is really hard to believe. So I'm having a hard time just trying to understand how fast things are going. Excuse me 1 second. Got to get that OJ in, you know what I'm saying? Stay healthy. But anyway, we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Now, one of the questions and issues that I personally have, and I'm going to run a video real quick of one of my favorite songs, but one of the personal issues that I have since I've been living here, and it's been about 10 years, going on 11, is that unity and togetherness within certain communities don't ever seem to be syncing up like they should. And it's always a pet peeve of mine, and it always will be until I see things change. So, as things are trying to change and we're bringing people on that actually can make some change happen, I feel that not enough people in this community, and I'm talking about Durham, where I live at, not enough people are actually putting their best foot forward. I feel that some people say what they're going to do, and some people talk about what they're going to do. And when I go to these meetings and I see that they're halfway full and there's no reason why people can't be there because there's a sporting event on or something else, but those athletes, they got millions of dollars already. So they're not going to care about your neighborhood the way you should care about your own neighborhood and your own environment. And I'm talking every race, every creed, and every color. You should actually care about where you live at, about how you treat people, about how you throw garbage on the street, about how you keep your yard up, about how you keep your profile up, about going out into public with pajamas, with slippers, with your hair all nappy. Care about your environment, and your environment starts with your body. Care about how you look. Care about everything around you. Don't be one that succumbs just because society says you have to succumb and you have to be a certain way. Look your very best at all times when you go out of the house. Never, ever, ever represent yourself in such a way that's in the declining matter, because that's only going to make and exacerbate the problems that we have, especially as minority people. Now's the time for us to step completely up and get this done the right way. And we had a leader in there, Barack Obama. He showed us how to be. We've had plenty of leaders in the past, artists, musicians, Prince, Bootsy, people out there that are showing us how to be. Chaka Khan, Earth, Wind, and Fire. We had all of this. We grew up with all of this. So now we're going to sit and act like we never had none of this. We've had these teachings from brothers like Jeff Robertson. I'm going to play his video. We've had these teachings from Malcolm, from Martin, from Edgar Mevis. We've had all of this stuff intact, and still we continue to wallow in the muck and mire as Afro-American people by making excuses for our own demise. And it's got to stop. And I plan on preaching about it. I'm going to stand on every box top. I'm going to stand on every mountain. And I'm going to let all y'all know this is what we have to do together. Stand together, be together, and make sure that we represent ourselves at best at all times. I believe Anjanae is here. I don't see her face. She's here. Oh, there she is. Hey, how are you? Okay. So we're gonna redo a little bit of the hype. So this way I can bring you in the right way, because I was on a little tangent, but I was warming it up for you as I always do. So without further ado, a very good friend of mine now going forward, Mrs. Anjanae Bell is here, and we're going to get into some of these things that I just ran down on you. So please welcome her to the show. Y'all put your hands together. And like I said, we're going to record this and put it out for everybody to see. And we're going to really, really understand and pick her brain and let her speak about her platforms, which again, housing and healing and opportunities and ownership for certain things and safety and trust within the community on both sides, government as far as, officials, police and everything else, and also environmental education, which is one of my pet peeves, and also the crime and other things that we have here. So Mark, please bring our guest on today, and thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you.
How are you?
I am great. I've been sitting here this whole time. I have to admit, I'm probably the worst person with this technology thing sometimes, because I've been sitting here. I got on early because I didn't want any glitches.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure I was here and present. And I've just been sitting here since 11:45. And
Really?
I'm so grateful. Yes.
Well, we'll have to get on Mark for that because that's his job. See, he's supposed to do that. I'm away from him. Host, producer, host. Mark, you slipping, bro. What's going on with that?
He did good though. He called. He said,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah.
we're in." I said, "Well, I'm here. I'm sitting here." And so I didn't. I apologize, but I'm going to get better at this every single time. So
You're fine.
I'm grateful.
It is I who should be apologizing, so I have to write Mark up for that. I run a very tight ship over here.
Well, thank you, Zach.
No, absolutely. It's so good to see you, and welcome. And we have a lot to chop up today, and I know your time is limited, but we're going to get into a lot of things. For people that are first now meeting you on my platform, we'll get into your legacy a little bit later, but I want to know about you. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into this area of politics and wanting to be a servant for, the community.
Well, so I'll go in terms of wanting to be a servant for the community. I've always been a servant for the community. I think about some of my youngest memories in Durham,
Right.
And I've been a creative for all of my life. I just remember my home being, a business in which I entertained, my family and friends, my parents' friends and family, because I would, we would have talent shows, and so I was doing those things and creating restaurants and movie theaters. And when I mean a movie theater, I mean what I created with a shoebox, and so I think serving has always been a part of my fabric, because one, I saw my mother as an educator and IBMer, and my father, of course, in community. And then I had, my own dreams at the kitchen table about how I wanted to serve this community. And for me, it was serving the community through the arts. And for me, I've always had a heart for service and people. And when the question, of course, how did I get here? I've been asked along the way, and that answer has always been no, in the sense, well, one, because, when you grow up and you see things all the time, and some of the complexities with people, and as a young person, the thing I understood was voting and paying taxes, but in watching it and how hard it was in terms of serving and being one person and having different personalities and just how critical people can be, I never thought outside of the arts. And even that, I started to understand what it means to lead and serve with your heart and community. Yeah. And so I think it was a conversation I was having with a girlfriend, and she was just like, Anjanae, you should be in politics. And I was just like, no, I'm an artist. I didn't give any thought, because honestly, it's because of the narrative that is surrounding politics. Yeah. But at its core, in my own due diligence in this part of the journey, I understood at its core what politics was there's you bring an issue to the square, diverse people around, coming together and figuring how to solve a thing. And that's what I understand. And that's where I think I exist at this point. So you ask, how did I get in terms of politics? Until 2023, I didn't think of myself. One, because it was a joke. The election was happening, and and I was just joking with my dad, like, depending on what happens, I might have to run. And then I retracted and I said, well, no, because I'm an introvert. And some will always just be perplexed in that statement. But the thing about me is that a lot of the things that I've done creatively, the process is going inward. And you asked in terms of knowing me, I'm a thinker. Right. And so even in this process, I care about words, I care about intentions, I care about vibrations, I care about word, right? I care about everything that is moving, because that is life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when and knowing Anjane is not a human being that gets caught up in labels. I get caught up in the doing of things and the betterment of things. As an artist, and specifically one who performs in spaces and produces with public criticism, I always understood you're only as good as your last work. And I have this way of better. Not that I can't appreciate the moment, but it's being able to continue to move forward and grow and never be settled in, well, I've done a thing and there's nothing else for me to do. I was a teacher.
Yeah.
So another form of service.
Yeah.
I would always tell my students, I'm not the end all be all. I never, in getting in front of my students, I always saw myself within, because there was always something that I was learning, always something that helped me to sharpen the sword.
Right. Right.
So that's how I got here is I'm still becoming it, Zach. I'm still
Yeah.
every day, but I'm telling you, people and purpose over politics. That's what this is about.
I love how you, and first of all, thank you so much for explaining that so eloquently. I love how you incorporated Mother Nature and your artistic vibe being one whole thing, because I practice a lot of Buddhism and we believe in that circle. And when you said energy, I have my crystal set up, and I have, I believe in God, of course, but I have certain ways that I maneuver. And when I met you that day and we were talking after that event, I really felt pulled to your mission, because I too am like sometimes a little different dog with the hubcap. I'll chase it, but then when I get it, I'm like, okay, what do I do with it? And then I'll wait and let it land and then figure out something else that I'm supposed to do. And I get the impression that you're going to be great no matter what you do, because I've already seen evidence of it. I've read a lot about you, and your family history. But something you said was interesting just now, because I took this from a coach, Pat Riley, right? And he said he remembers the losses more than he remembers the wins. Like it's something. So when you said you do something and then you're ready to get on to the next thing, I can really, as an artist myself, identify with that. And here now that we're here on this journey, like I told you when I met you, I'll try to do anything I can to help support your mission, because it is too my mission to serve and help this community grow. So what do you think? And we're going to get into the mayoral stuff later, but what do you think we can do as a community? and this was on my soapbox earlier, right? To get our community to understand for now, just for now, until we can figure out our other problems, how can we just come together a little bit closer and start acting more like a cohesive machine, like we see the Latinos, the Mexicans, the Asians, the Indian communities? They act like, if you notice how they roll in the community and how they maneuver and how they set things up, it's never really jagged. It's always nice and smooth. Now, a lot of us Afro Americans, we're trying to get it like that, where it's like smooth transitions. Do you think it's the lack of money or the lack of want to? What do you think that is?
Let me make sure I understand the question. So, or the statement. You said in terms of other communities being able to come together and things being smooth, what is preventing us from coming together? And clarify that for me.
Yeah,
Just one.
yeah. Like, in other words, I know we're together, but a lot of times it's misinformation. Perfect example, right? Like, when I find out there's something going on, usually it's usually word of mouth, and it's not put out there to where I could tell other people about it. I usually find out that same day, or Mark will tell me. It seems like we're not communicating. Seems like things are happening, but we're just not communicating in a way to where everybody is like, okay, this Thursday, I need everybody over here. Or this Friday, I need everybody over here because this is affecting our entire community. Because when I was coming to the event I saw you at, I was telling people about it, and they was like, "Well, I didn't hear anything about it." That kind of thing. And I don't know if it's social media. I'm just curious.
So I think it's action. It's choice. Is choice and action. I think when you spend time, there is a talking about a thing and a doing of a thing,
Yes, yes,
right? And so I'm of the doing of a thing.
yes,
And my experience, even in this process, working to bring people together, because this is all about seeing how to bring people together and the effective ways of doing it.
yes,
What my observations and experience have demonstrated to me within this particular community is that it's our true willingness to support one another through and through. It's me knowing, coming to you and asking for your support or vice versa doesn't mean that if I support you, that somehow I'm not supporting myself or vice versa. It
right,
means that if you have the opportunity or I have the opportunity to open the door, go through the door, that I'm going to bring you along with me. And that is something that I've been moving through for a very long time. And I remember when I opened my dance space, okay? Before that happened, I talked to people and they were like, Anjane, if you do this, we're going to be behind you. And it was all of the accolades. And then I did the thing, and those people weren't there, you know? And then, but I continue to push because I continue to believe and I continue to, offer opportunities. And, whether those, that the opportunities were intended to be for showed up or not, I still did it. And because ultimately anything that I do is for everyone, right? But sometimes it's more targeted. So for instance, if I'm opening up space for, let's just say specifically, I'm opening up space for 5 and 6 year olds. But in evolution, I also have space for my elders. But in the middle of that, I still have space for my teenagers, right? I can offer things specifically, but those who come along in the process, okay, those who come along in the process, I'm still going to serve them as well.
yes,
And when this process began for me, and at first it started with just a better Durham. because that was easy. I was just like, why am I doing this? It's a better Durham, because conceptually everyone understands better, right? So again, going back to your question, your statement about what is it going to take for us to come together as in terms of supporting one another, in terms of moving things forward with one another, in terms of communicating, all of those things is going to have to take intention and choice
Yes.
to say what benefits one, or injustice for one benefits and is injustice for all.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm still working at it, Zach. I'm still working to figure it
Same.
out.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
I'm still,
I agree.
I'm at it.
I think what you said is very important because, you know, I have, see, I'm fire, I'm Aries, so I have a hard time dealing with frustration and getting things off the ground. I'm a builder. I like to build. I like to create, like you. And that's why like-minded people think alike, because I can relate to everything you're saying. Because again, when you're bringing something to the table, it doesn't mean that you're closing off other things. It simply
Mhm.
means you're just trying to make a space so everybody can get through. And it's really, to me, a simple process, you know. And I'm not going to use any cliches because we all know what they are, because we keep it light on this show. But at the same time, you know, we got to be real. A lot of times when we do mention things to people and they say, you know, yeah, I got your back, I'm going to be there, you know, they may have good intentions, but then, oh my God, the NCAA is on. I got to stay and watch that. Well, you could
Yeah.
go watch it on replay. And that's what
Mhm.
really got me upset, because I was like, yeah, I know the thing is on, but you can watch on your phone or whatever
Yes.
if
Yes.
it's that important.
Yes.
But when I came and I met you and I saw those people that spoke, and we had, you know, people from all different sectors of life talking about the art that's going to affect this community for the next
Mhm.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Mhm.
I believe that's important.
Yes. Yes, it
You
is.
know, my one daughter's 21. She went to school performing arts. My other daughter's 17. You know, I have a son 45 in Georgia, and I want a world better for them. You
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes.
better for you,
Yes.
better for Mark and his
Mhm.
nieces and nephews. So I'm so happy that you're here, because I've been looking for you for the longest time. Like, where are my people? Where's my tribe?
Yes. Yes. And that's and that I think about that in this process because there what people don't understand sometimes, well, I can't say that. Let me not make that blanket statement. What I think is challenging for some to understand, especially when you make this type of decision to serve, right? And you make this, and you choose to put yourself in the firing line, right? You're vulnerable. There's so many reasons. When I thought about the day I filed, there's so many reasons not to open that door and walk through it. You can make all kinds of excuses, whether it's timing, whether, do I have money, or, this person or that person. And, along the way, people, have asked me, Anjane, are you scared? Are you ready for this? And, and I've had to say, I was born ready for this, only because as an artist, and I think you can attest to this, you are often met with resistance. You're often met with people not seeing the vision, and finding all kinds of ways to poke holes in what has been gifted to you to see. You're having to figure out how to realize a vision with limited to no financial resource, and you're having to build audiences, and you're having to figure out, as creating, how do you do that it really spans beyond you. And that's what this process of running for mayor of Durham, it is a very similar process to mounting any vision. It's it for me, I tell people at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, for me, it's love. And that is what
Yeah.
creating has been for me. That is what being a mother is. That is what a daughter, an entrepreneur, an educator, because sometimes you show up and there is no one there.
Right.
You show up, there are no applause, but the work has to be done because you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. And sometimes that timing doesn't mesh.
Yeah.
Like this moment now is a culmination of so many things that I've done over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many. And it takes me back when I mean so many years, it takes me back to being a little girl in this city, driving around. No, let me say, I wasn't driving, riding around, whether it was with my mother to look at different homes, or as my father, who still to this day just likes to go through the streets of Durham just to see what's happening.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you asking, or you asking me just to share about me, because sometimes when you're doing things, people don't realize you're human. You think I think about things, I feel about things, things hurt me just the same,
Yeah.
but one thing is I'm comfortable in those spaces. I'm comfortable, sometimes being on what feels like an island because I believe in something far greater.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like I said, we have a lot in common because my dad was a Baptist minister, right? And I have three more ministers in my family, nieces and nephews. And everybody just automatically assumed from day one I was gonna go that route. And I was like, nah. And my father was the only one that said, no, this ain't for you. You do your music. Because everybody else just said that. And when you said, I people that are older in my family, they often ask me about that, and they don't really get on my case about it, but they kind of want to put what I'm doing down, but at the same time they can't because I've been successful at what I do, and I've actually taken sermons and made songs out of them, and so I've done it my way. And that's why I appreciate you, because you're doing it your way. And when you do it your way, that's the way you're supposed to do it. That's what it is. So you keep doing you. We got your back here, and I can officially say we're gonna publicly come out and endorse you. So
Well,
you got our endorsement from the front seat for what it's worth. I knew that from day one. You know what I mean? Because you're a woman that can get things done. And Mark will tell you this, not because I have daughters, but I always feel that women are the strongest on the planet anyway. You know what I mean? Because you guys just go through so much. We have a clip right now that Mark is getting ready, and I wanted to show this, and then we're going to come back a little bit and talk to you a little bit more, find out a little bit more about your artistic work, and then we're going to dive into that cesspool of the political world and see what you think about that. So you all sit back, relax, check this out. Amazing guest today, Anjani Bell, and we're so happy to have you. Go ahead and roll that for me, Mark.
Race to be the next mayor of Durham is heating up right now. And today, Eyewitness News is sitting down with Anjani Bell, the woman challenging Leo Williams to lead the Bull City in the future. She's the daughter of former Durham Mayor Bill Bell. She describes herself as a single mother of three who was raised in Durham Public Schools and was later an arts teacher in DPS. DeJuan Hogard here now with the interview.
Anjani Bell grew up right here in the Bull City, and her father, longtime Durham Mayor Bill Bell. We had a chance to speak today about her plans for the city and how she says she wants to see better for Durham.
The assumptions, right? It goes back to that expectation piece. Like the expectation is...
Meet Anjani Bell. She's the latest person to throw her name in the ring to be the next mayor of Durham.
I've always carried my own vision for this city.
I had a one-on-one conversation today with the mayor, all hopeful, who plans to run on a message of hope, an acronym, housing and healing, opportunity and ownership, people safety and trust, and environment and education.
I really genuinely care about people living their purpose and having the best and better opportunities to thrive.
Her decision to run came to her in 2023.
That's, I think, where the why was truly forming for me. Fast forward, even like yesterday, I was in an area, I was on Laurel Avenue visiting a woman who I had met, and she just felt through with this city. Not because she didn't want to be here, but things weren't better.
Her dad, Bill Bell, was Durham's mayor for 16 years, which can be big shoes to fill.
I carry a vision that is uniquely mine. And a lot of that also is because of how it was in my home. They will associate with me with my father.
Meanwhile, her opponent and current Durham Mayor Leo Williams says voters will ultimately decide who they want to lead the city forward.
It's not about me, and I don't think it's about her either. The reality is, the beautiful thing about democracy is that you feel like you can do the job, you have an opportunity to get involved in the process to do the job. I'm not running against her. I'm running for Durham, and I'm running based on what we've done thus far and what there is still left to do.
And this year's general election is scheduled for November the 4th. Both Anjanae Bell and current Mayor Williams both have a lot of love and passion for the Bull City and are prepared to ramp up their campaign as Election Day draws near. In Durham, Dwan Hogarth, ABC 11, Eyewitness News.
So listen, we're going to do everything we can because I know you're the right person for this gig right here. It's just a feeling that I get, and I don't vibe with a lot of people down here. I keep to myself, but you have something special the universe is giving you, and we need you now here. I was on the fence whether or not I was even going to want to stay here, any longer, only because
Yeah.
I just want to move. I like to go at warp 12. I don't need a lot of sleep. I don't want to drag my foot around. What's up, George? How you doing, bro? I like to be exactly what you're doing, because you're a go-getter. You have a sense of what's needed. And maybe that's what our people need sometimes. Maybe they need that little beacon. Girls especially, young Afro-American, brown-skinned girls of all, races, they need to see this, It's important. Self-esteem, all of these things that help build our community. And you had some things listed that I thought were really cool. And I like how you summarized it. Housing and healing. Those two things go hand in hand. Explain that a little bit.
So I appreciate you starting. I appreciate that because, one, the experience that I've had, I've been in this world for 48 years and really understanding your own voice, your own stance after you've lived some life. And you don't realize sometimes when you carry that, you carry the harm along the way and how that impacts much. And when I think about housing and healing, because it does, because it starts at home. Everything starts at home. So whether that like home being that true place, 4 walls, roof, or home being your center. Like as a dancer, like you understand, like, and you come home, or I think we all understand that notion of home. And it's really important to understand that within that, healing is a part of that. And so that is making sure that when people are in their spaces, that they can stay there, that they can be there. And anything that happens around them within, it's named, so therefore it can be addressed. Healing is so important to allowing any movement to go forth. Because when people experience harm, it impacts their present and it impacts their trajectory. And if we are not in a space as a people to have that awareness, then that real growth is stunted.
Yes.
And so it's very important to understand, first and foremost, our home and healing, it has to be there. We have to prioritize that because that home and healing piece, that's about stability.
Yep.
And when anyone is feeling unstable, and I reference it because as a dancer, your centering, your stability is important to how, and when I say that, you have to understand your centering to move off of things, because you understand where you have to come back to. And when people have nothing to come back to, they don't have that home base. They're vulnerable in many ways, and survival of the fittest, self-preservation. And that's why it's very important that we as a community, we as leadership, prioritize housing and healing, not separate from each other, because together that's how everything moves. It moves out from that space.
Yep.
So yeah.
Peace of mind has always been something that I guess the first cave dwellers or people in Africa, the motherland, it was always that tribe. Let's home, we here, we around the fire, whatever. That's innately in our DNA.
Mhm.
And through systematic tearing downs of certain things that we won't get into, we realize now that sometimes everybody doesn't have the same opportunity, but whatever opportunity they have to make that home or whatever, you see hardworking people. I know because I drive Uber and, do that. And we was talking about that earlier. And I talk to people every day when I'm not doing music, and they have the same issues I have. You know, you want to get up, do whatever type of meditation, worship, or whatever your mantra is, get on with your day, but you always think, I want to go home.
Yes,
I
yes.
gotta go home
You gotta go
later.
home. It's nothing
Yeah,
like it. Yes.
yeah, and I think we need this feminine energy. A lot of guys are hip to what I'm saying now because they're figuring it out. We need this feminine energy out here now to completely rebuild, starting small in our own communities,
Hmm.
then maybe statewide, then maybe regional, then national, then worldwide. That's where we are now. And those that cannot see that, I can only offer them hope that they do see it. Because the old way has gotten us here. And
Hmm.
look where we are. See, and this is why we got to fix this in every little way we can. Um, Something else that you mentioned, um, and I was talking about it too, when you tagged these things together, and it was safety and trust, and I value those words. So
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about how you see that on both sides, from whether it's law enforcement or the government or politics or whatever. Explain that to us, how you feel about that.
It safety and trust, it moves hand in hand. And when you don't feel safe, you're often, not trusting of a thing. And I think it moves in that way, because when you trust, much is connected with safety, right? When I think about, what's happening in Durham right now, and it's on both sides. You have community, and we're going to specifically talk about, our law enforcement, that are here to serve and protect. You have community that somewhere, there has been harm, right? In community, in personal space, and I'll share my own experience. And so that goes in terms of how we see things, how we interact, how we engage, right? And so everyone, I think, I would say that no one wants to feel unsafe in their homes. No one wants to feel unsafe in the streets when they're walking day or night. No one wants to feel when they go to school that somehow, they're going to be harmed and threatened or same can go to, you go to church, you go to the mall, all these places that you trust to have your well-being, right? And in the other side of that, law enforcement, people who, you know, take a pledge and oath to put themselves, their lives on the line to serve, to protect, right? And let me tell you, that is a courageous choice,
Yes, it is.
right? Because again, it's that self-preservation piece. And to put yourself out there, to not know if you're going to come home, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
So that safety piece being that when those who show up to serve and protect have that support from community to do the work, that safety and trust piece that, has the voices. But what is occurring is confidence on both sides.
Yeah.
Right? I will share from my own experience. I had my burglar alarm went off. Right? So I have that in place because it provides a sense of safety. Now we know that anyone, should they want to come in, can come in. But for the protection of me and mine, that is a measure I have in place. On top of that, it is monitored, which means that something goes off and there is someone to meet me, to meet my home, to meet me and my family in place to show up. So this one day I happened to not be home and my alarm went off and I got the call that my alarm had gone off. I said, well, hey, I will be there in 5 minutes. I don't know why it's going off. I don't know why it's been triggered in this way, but I'm home. So they dispatched police. And so I said, okay, I got home and came, and for what I knew, no one, my home was still intact. But the question was, where's the police? Because what I was told was that they were here. They were at my home. Well, I got here, no one was here. Right? So automatically there was this question of trust in the system.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I called my alarm company and I said, hey, you said that law enforcement was here. I'm telling you, I'm in my home. I've been in my home at this point for now over 10 minutes. And that's a concern to me because should something have really been occurring, you're telling me they're here. I'm telling you they're not here.
Right.
So then because I'm persistent. I am persistent. I'm not going to even fault. I'm a curious person. And if I need to know something, I have no problems asking. So that was the thing. You're telling me they're here. I'm telling you they're not here. That is a problem. I'm glad that there's not an issue, but this is a problem. So what they did was they called dispatch. And then dispatch said they are here. I said, no, I'm telling you, they are not in my home. They are not here. That is a problem. So I was going back and forth and I explained to the dispatch officer, I said, look, I'm not trying to give you a difficult time, but what I'm trying to express to you as a woman, as a mother, I'm in my home. My alarm went off. I've been here now. At this point, we're having this conversation. It's been 20 minutes now. I'm being told that law enforcement is here. I'm telling you they are not here. And I want to understand why. Well, he went over and the response that came back to me was shocking. Wow. Because the response that came back to me was there was a switch flipped in their vehicle that lets you know where they are in place. And somehow, and that was like, and the response of, well, sometimes it's flipped by accident. Okay, that's problematic.
Yeah.
How is a switch flip that says officers are on location when they're actually not? That became a question to me. That's that safety, that trust piece, right? So anyway, we got off. A few seconds after, I would give it maybe less than a minute. An officer came with lights, and I opened my door, and he was still coming out of his car, and I said, "Hey, I already canceled your services. I'm good." But he said, "Well, I understand you have questions," and I just laughed. because I was like, I am that person. I have questions. Well, yes, I do. So what he explained to me was the simple fact how stretched they are.
Yeah.
And he helped me to understand the priorities of calls. But my question still was, I was troubled by the fact of the report that there was a car present when it was not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication, communication, communication.
You know, you're right. You bring up a very interesting point because a good friend of mine, you know, he's a sergeant, police officer, you know, and I hit him up now and then because a lot of times I have questions about things that I just want to know, especially down here now. You know, I'm not from here, but I've been here a minute. You know, Sergeant Strong is his name, right? He's been in this area for a very long time, and he, you know, we were talking one day and I was like, yeah, I'm from New York, so I get the whole thing about police. This, you know, I said, I know. I know rarely does a police officer stop crime. They only come after something happens, you know, unless they see it, right? Like a speeding ticket or whatever, right? So we were talking about that. And he said what you just said. He said, you know, he said, we want to be everywhere, but priorities come in. And sometimes when you're on your way to something, then something else happens. And he says, then it's their job at the dispatch to dispatch someone else. He said, but a lot of times they're falling asleep. So that goes to communication. And that's what better politicking will bring about. These little things, if we try to get the little links in the chain fixed little by little, we'll make it stronger altogether. Because
Yeah.
God forbid nothing happened to you. I'm grateful. But imagine if it really was serious and you really did need, you know, to really back up. Like, you know, it wouldn't end well. We got a couple of comments from my dog, George the Funkavinci down in Texas. And my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people in Texas. Oh my God, that's a whole nother weather thing.
Yes.
But George says, you know, housing and food for everyone would make people happier. And, you know, it would keep people off the streets at night from probably doing things that they don't want to do, you know. And he also says, which is funny, he always got some great comments, the only two policemen that he trusts is his nephew and his old captain from the Army, the National Guard. So I got you. And George, believe me, I know quite a few police officers here from living here now, but very few do I like say, hey, you got my back, you know, because I kind of just know the job, you know, and I know all the time, sometimes they want to do what they have to do, but in some instances, everybody is not as nice as everybody else when it comes to how they treat people. And I know that for a fact, which is why I do not have tint on my car window.
I mean, but you know, but it goes back to that healing piece too, and
Yes.
remembering. And this is the thing: when you get any position, when you believe, you know, title is bigger, you have to remember that people are people. And so some people, you know, their costumes just appear different, right? Which yield you to respond differently to them. It's very important for all people, community, and law enforcement to recognize that healing is required on all sides. So whether that is to understand and also how to communicate that openly and effectively and have those spaces that can occur.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all require help. I know we want to think that we can do it all on our own sometimes, you know, but it's being able to understand, being able to sit at the table, you know, and when I think about when in putting people's trust and people's safety and people's trust, one, that came by way, like the people part came by way of my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, because, you know, I was just going through it with her and it was public, you know, public safety, public trust. And that didn't resonate. People did, right? It's specific. And what's required is that we all have to come to the table. We have to sit and talk as people, some with different responsibilities than others. But the bottom line is we have to come to the table to talk about how do we build a better Durham for everyone that reflects safety and trust. That's essential. So it's talking, you know, I was, you know, in the space of just listening and observing law enforcement and conversation. And after they had, you know, this officer had presented, I wanted to know, like, what do you need?
Yeah.
What will help you?
Yeah.
And it's those things, is understanding, what do you need to do what you have been called to do, what you have chosen to do for this city, to do it better and well for everyone. And the thing is, we have to get out of the space of being self-serving. That's another
Yes.
thing. Like,
Yes.
people choose to, they say they're serving, but they're only serving self.
Yes.
And so, because there are people that they need to choose something different. Once they realize that they don't contribute positively to that space, they need to choose something different. So in the space of community, when people aren't being positive contributing members of community, something has to happen in that.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in Durham to help it be a better Durham, then let's think about that. If
Yes.
you are serving Durham and you're not here to serve Durham in a way that helps it be better, then we need to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the lens, I think when we hold conversation, we hold space. That is when you get into intentions. Why are
Yes.
you here? Why are you here?
You know, it's true, because Eleanor Bonner, one of my favorite authors, and she always has a quote: the meaning of life is to find a gift. The purpose of life is to give
Yes.
it back.
Yes.
You know, so
Yes.
I believe that, with everything that you're saying, this new type of voice that we're starting to see across the country, in little pockets, we're starting to see this new voice. And that's why we got to do it a little bit at a time, because the big attention is not going to take care of us right here in Durham.
Right.
These little things. I always tell people, listen, I vote, my conscience, whatever, but local politics is really where you get your railroads, your firemen, your police, your garbage trucks, how your neighborhood is kept, those are the things that we live every day.
Yes.
And then we deal with the bigger issues that we have. So, hi, Cindy. How you doing out of Seattle? Accountability. That's right. We got people checking in. They'll be popping
Yes.
in. This is our new friend, Cindy, and Cindy's a big sponsor of the show. Thank you, Cindy K. Lane. I love you out there. And we actually publicly endorsed her today. She's running for mayor of Durham. And, we're going to try to do everything we can to put our voice to it. and make sure people know, like, hey, we paying attention. You know what I mean? But I love you, Cindy, man. You're the best. And so is George and other people that'll watch. We're going to take 2 minutes, and we want you to come back on the other side with us, because I got to run down a few sponsors. But I want to really get into the grant program, the affordable housing for seniors, and more about not necessarily the issue of crime, but how do we start the younger generation to let them understand there are other options. So we're going to take a few minutes and shout out. I'm going to run a few clips. We're so happy for the first time to have you, and this is going to be many, many more. And hopefully we will be talking about your victory and all this stuff come November. Anjanae Bell, you hang out with us for a minute, and we're going to bring Mark Lee back on the other side too. So y'all sit back and relax and check this out. We got a few shout outs, people that always support our show. We're grateful for that, and we appreciate everybody that does. So check this out.
Hey, this is Keith Jackson with P-Funk Radio, inviting you to check out my brother Zach Robinson with Funk from the Front Seat. Saturdays, 12 noon on the East Coast and 9 a.m. on the West Coast. It all happens on 9 on the Grind TV and also on YouTube. Great guest, great conversation each and every Saturday. That's Funk from the Front Seat with Zach Robinson on 9 on the Grind TV and YouTube. Check him out.
What's up, Royal Funk fans? This is Lisa Love, aka Alpha Unk Omega, coming to you from Love's Temple here in Southern California, inviting you to 9 on the Grind, Funk from the Front Seat with Zach Robinson. This is what I want you to do for me. Tune in every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come join the meeting of minds. I guarantee soul's growth and high vibrations, not to mention the love. Keep it funky, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Linda Shiner here, talking about my brother from another mother, Zach Robertson's Funkin' from the Front Seat podcast. It's Saturday afternoons, 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock on the West Coast, and 10 and 11 in between. We talk about, I'm on there sometime, we talk about politics, music, of course, what's going on in the world, and whatever kind of floats our boat that day. So y'all check it out. Like I said, Funkin' from the Front Seat, Zach Robertson's podcast, Saturday afternoons, 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock West. Peace.
It's Peppermint Patty. Hello to everyone, all of our Club Funketeers all around the world. I want to say this to you. You're watching FFTFS on 9 on the Grind TV every Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern to 9 a.m. Pacific. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful show it is. And it's with our Club Funketeer, who? Zach. On the 9. Zach is the vice president of the Club Funketeers. So we lift him up every day and we thank him for keeping the funk alive. All right, go ahead. Let's do it, number 9. Peppermint Patty.
Hey, it's Chrissy Key Rollins here with Holistic Restoration, inviting you to check out Zach Robinson with Funk in the Front Seat. He drops new episodes every Saturday at noon on the East Coast time, and replays are posted for whenever you miss a live stream. You can find him on 9 on the Grind TV and also on YouTube, and get ready for the funk because he brings it every week along with hot topics, amazing guests, and great conversations. Again, that's Zach Robinson with Funk from the Front Seat on 9 on the Grind TV and YouTube. Go check them out.
Hey, this is Jen Vanderputten, writer of Code and Prose. You are watching Funk from the Front Seat with Zach Roberson. Tune in every Saturday at noon for excellent and important conversation.
A few people that shout us out. Also, JTRP, P-Funk Radio, Gabe Gonzalez, Larry Funkster, Jones Robin, Circle of P, and Philly Phil, all on P-Funk Radio throughout the week. Check them out because they're really doing their thing. They're dropping all the funk that you need to hear. Of course, Peppermint Patty and Boosie Collins, HJ Entertainment, Kane and Jams, Tony Cameron, the Funk All-Stars, Napier Funk Army, Oak City Music Collective. Thank you for taking care of us down here, Diego, which, by the way, we're going out on the road August 1st and 2nd, Roanoke the 1st, and we'll be in Plattsburgh, Virginia on the 2nd doing the festival up there. So thank you, Diego, and incredible management, my team down here. Afterglow 92416. Otis, I hope you're feeling better. And Donna, I'll see you soon. Q&A Entertainment, and a special shout out to Brooke Clagett. She's having her record label party with Enema Squad and I think Gary Sanders Band, and they're doing that right now as we speak on her farm in Virginia. And I can't be there, Brooke, but I'm sending you all the love and positive energy. Patricia Dioria, Aquarius Rising Art, Curtis Wilcox, and George DeFunca Vinci, my dog from Texas. All this beautiful work you see back here, they're responsible for that. Dr. Bruckenstein up in Philly, my tech engineer that takes care of my websites and everything. DJ Coccolino and Elisabetta in Ireland and Coccolino in Italy. And then also DJ Monica in Switzerland. Thank you for playing our music. I appreciate you. And David Webb, Funk Chronicles, thank you for putting Napier Funk Army in the Funk Hall of Fame last year, and that's amazing. And I'm so happy you're on P-Funk Radio doing your thing as well. And all the people that tune in, all the people that sponsor the show and all that good stuff, we appreciate you. Today, we are hanging out with our new friend and newly endorsed by us, Anjanae Bell. And we're going to come back now and really get into the crux of this particular show and you running for this particular office. And tell us, as you're doing this for the first time on this journey, but this is your journey. I'm sure it's already set in stone. What is going to be one of the first things you're going to try to let people know that you want to have happen in this town as they come to know you and get to know you, especially on this new platform here?
Well, first, I just want to say I really appreciated seeing your sponsors. I appreciated seeing all of them come and just the way, just the speaking. But I really appreciated that. I mean, the whole world of funk it's amazing. So you're asking me what is the first are you asking what is the first thing that I'm going to do in terms of achieving victory, or what is the first thing in terms of now?
Well, basically, like, because the election is coming up shortly, right? Okay, so what message would you want to portray to people that is going to let them know this is your gig and this is how you're going to make things better? Like, what are you going to tell them? What is that
It
message?
is so that message, and I think it's very interesting because when media picked up on this upon filing, Durham is hope. That's real. Just to be able to break it apart. I mean, holistically, it is, because when you have grown up in this city to hear how it's talked about from the outside, whether, oh, you live in Durham, oh, it's this, the negative energy and spill, right? And when you live in that and you see your beauty in spite of all that noise, that's important. And so it's to restore that, to understand that Durham, it has its purpose and so does its people. And at best is to begin to understand Durham is hope. Durham is housing and healing. Durham is ownership, it's own opportunity and ownership. Durham is people's safety, people's trust. Durham is environment and its education. It's being able to lift the city up to understand that in those spaces, that is where the outcome is a better Durham for everyone. And when I say that, like, people are just like, it's a wordsmith. No, I mean everyone. When I sit and think through all the facets, so you mentioned you drove Uber. Me too. And it was a part of the process because I wanted to make sure that in me saying I'm serving everyone, that I have run myself through the process. And so driving Uber helped me to see the challenges. It helped me to understand that Durham needs to recognize we're at a crossroad. We're in an identity crisis right now,
Yes.
right? We're at what's at stake. If we continue on this road, we will lose what makes Durham Durham. Durham needs to just to own unapologetically its grit, its small but big neighborhood essence and vibe. Durham needs to remember, and it's about remembering.
Yes.
And if you're not here to know, then you have people to remind you of its brilliance, of what makes it truly remarkable. Durham doesn't need, in terms of its elevation, Durham is elevated. Durham doesn't need anyone to put it on the map. It's already on the map, right? So Durham must remember who it is.
Yeah.
And not allow projection to come in and tell it otherwise, because that's why we're spinning.
Yes.
That's why the stuff that is occurring, with development, because Durham needs to remember, and Durham needs to stand together strong.
Yes.
And be willing to take some bold choices in some of these spaces that, they are being pinned with a narrative that they are the cause and the root of some of Durham's greatest challenges. There are spaces that we can do better as a whole, and we have to do that. We have to come together and we have to choose. It is about choice. My mother's an economist, and that was something in her classroom when she was a professor at North Carolina Central University. And I remember she was telling her students, we all have a choice. It is one of the most distinctive things that I carry, whether you like the consequences or not, which can be positive or not so positive. But the bottom line is we all have a choice, and Durham has a choice to make.
Yeah.
And that choice cannot be the choice made with the hands of a few, but with the choices, in the hands of a few. It has to be made collectively.
Yeah.
And people have to not sit home, not just complain in their corners. You have to step out and you have to do something, And so even if it's in this process, you don't know me. I stepped forward. I have been doing this work. This wasn't just last month. It wasn't just at the beginning of this year. I have been working in this actively, knowing that this was my call since January of
Right.
24.
Right.
But yes, that is what I want this city to understand about Anjane and this campaign and this call. This is about hope. Durham is that. Durham can be that for other cities around the world.
Yes. Yes.
Right? We can be the example of what strong civic leadership looks like.
Yes.
We can be the example of when people stand strong together, what it can look like. We can be the city that shows people when you just say no, that it is okay to say no, what it looks like. Durham can be the city that shows what it looks like for us to choose people over profit. Durham can be that. That is what, if anyone knows, I am passionate. I'm committed because this city, I have grown up in it, and I've told people that it hasn't always been favorable to me, but that is love. In it, I have met so many people and learned about myself in becoming. That is just, Durham is home. I mean, I've lived in other places, and there is something that is uniquely special about this city, and you drive and you just know it's just something different.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I like how you said hope. Durham is hope because on Juneteenth we did a show and we talked about the different and I'll bring Mark in on this as well. The different Black Wall Streets around the country that were destroyed and some were gentrified, and Durham was one of them. They built the highway right through it. But our guy down in Texas, he says all goes well when you vote for Bell. So he's already giving you funky campaign slogans. So I love my audience for that because they be on it. But yeah, it is weird because when I first moved here and I had to go back up top and do a few things, and people are like, oh my God, you moved to Durham. And I was like, yes. I mean, I didn't really know, but I didn't really want to hear that, because it kind of made me feel like, well, you might not know. Everything ain't like that.
Yeah.
Perception, you can't go by what the national thing is. There's things that happen all over the place. They actually nicknamed parts of Chicago Chirac. I mean, so you got things everywhere. But for some reason, because Duke and NC Central and UNC, and to me, all of this education is here. Okay. Most powerful institutions in the world are here. Okay. Now you're going to say, well, but maybe everybody doesn't have that opportunity. Okay, so that's fine. There's a place for you to go. So when we see our politicians and they constantly tell us, and not you, but others have said, well, yeah, we're going to do this, and yeah, we're going to do that, and yeah, we're going to do this. And people have told me that been here for 10, 50, 20, 30 years that went to NC Central, and they said, yeah, nothing really changed. And I'm like, but how can that be? I say, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean?
Well, Okay, so things have changed.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying.
I will say, one of the things, and we don't have to stay here long, but I grew up in the home where I got to see the things actively changing. It's interesting, and I think perspective, it matters because it depends on where you are.
Yes.
For you to say things don't change. I mean, if you just stay in your corner of the world and you don't venture out, you might not see how much the world has changed around you, right? And so people have to be accountable for those statements. They have to be accountable for their choices. They have to be accountable for their actions and inaction. Right? And you don't put it on to say, well, nothing's has changed, because one thing we can guarantee is time moves and change happens.
Yes.
Right? Like even in the most remote ways. And so I know actively this city has changed. One, we didn't always have a DPAC. We didn't always have the big Durham Bulls Stadium. We didn't always have, yes, there was American Tobacco in terms of the warehouses, but we didn't have, what it looks like now. We didn't have all of these, unimaginative apartment buildings. We didn't have, right? We didn't have the congestion on 147 as it is now. Yeah. There are some things that we have had that we need to do better. But the bottom line is change is happening. We have more people now. That is change.
Yes.
Right? And so for anyone to form that, it's not whole. That's it. It's just not a whole statement.
That's right. That's right.
And so I stand with pride. I'm not saying that Durham is free of all of some of the issues, right? But I see those as amazing opportunities for us to do better in these ways for everyone who chooses this city.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's what's really important.
Yeah. And you're right, because I've been here 10 and I've seen change since I've been here. So that's why I say when people say that, it annoys me. And I don't want to say I take it personal, but I do, because I'm like, yo, I'm changed. I'm here. I'm doing some funk that ain't been here. So don't tell me things ain't been changing, because I know this ain't been done before. Right. And one of our spots, Cindy, she says, invest in people and the profits will soon follow. That's so true. Cindy.
It is. And that's if you invest well, and investing well is not in buildings, it's in people, and so I appreciate that, Cindy, because that's the difference. That's the difference in what we are doing now in this campaign, in this moment. This is what Anjane is setting forth in a vision. This is about how do we truly identify the resources and put them with the people.
Yes. Yes.
And the people who choose to be in the city, not the people who, were speculating to come to this city. See, that's a part of the challenge. Not that Durham Durham is a welcoming city. And it must remain that way. That is not to say that, the statement of investing in those who are here and who choose here. Because if you are from the outside and you choose here, you will be welcomed the same. We will protect and look after you just the same. What we have to understand as leadership is that it's like living for days ahead. Yes, you want to see that vision, but you have to stand in now. What are you doing right now?
Amen.
Right? And so what must occur is that as leaders, we have to focus on people who choose us now. I can say that even in running. I can talk about all the people who haven't come to the table yet. It might be frustrating because you might want them, you want everybody to believe in what you're doing, because you're doing it not for yourself but for them. But it's not to focus on those people. It's to focus on the people who show up today.
Yes, exactly.
Who, like yourself, have come to say, we're going to endorse you.
Yeah.
And you hold that, because that matters. The people who choose you, who choose your city, who invest in themselves, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what we have to focus on. We have to focus on how do we build homes or make sure the people who are here, who are in homes, we're preserving that. The people who are here now. And when those people who are, that might come in, when those people come in, we'll think about them too. But it's very important for us to be present in leadership, all the while having a vision, and a vision that understands where we want Durham, what side of history we want Durham to be on.
Yes.
What do we want to be remembered by what we do and what we leave behind? How have we left Durham better than the way we found it? And right now, I'm really challenged with that. I'm challenged as an artist. I'm challenged as someone who has worked in both natural and cultural resources. I'm challenged as a mother. I'm challenged as someone who grew up in this city, I've gone out and I've come back. So that's what this is about.
Yeah. You know, and thank you for saying that, and for all the beautiful comments out there, because this show goes like wherever it goes. We keep track of the numbers. We get, sometimes 1,200 on little short clips. But then when people go back and really listen to the substance, what we're talking about, I had mentioned to Mark earlier this season, it's our 5th year we're starting, right? I wanted to focus more on homegrown. Our first couple of years, we were like just doing other stuff. But now this year, especially since the last election too, we stayed up all election night. We was on from the beginning to the end. Come on, you can do this, you can pull out, whatever, right? But, I had Linda Scheider on. She's a political comic. She's out in Kansas City. I had, my friend Jen Vanderputten and me and Mark. We were here just hoping for the hope, because we wanted to see this change, and you represent that. And that's why I feel so positively good about your spirit, because that's what this place needs. You said hope. Hope is a very powerful word. That's why we're part of the triangle. When you talk, they say that they don't separate us. So for the people here that are watching this show, you're already doing it. You just need to do it louder and stronger, like we said in New York. Hey, they don't want you in the house, you build a door. They don't want to let the door in, you kick it open. That's how we roll up there. So here, I just want to nudge people a little bit harder. Maybe this show will do that, because again, it can be done. I've seen it. I'm 67 years old. I've seen things be done, get done by people that put the work in. Like we can't have everybody dragging their feet. One of the most beautiful experiences I had here was the protest with George Floyd. And I went down to UNC. It was like 80, 90, 100, whatever. We knelt down. We did the whole thing. And I saw people of every race, creed, color, gender speaking as one voice against one thing, right? And we know what that one thing was about. That's what we need now.
Yes.
Let's put all our petty differences aside, and let's speak with this one united voice. Durham will not go quietly into the night. We will fight. We will stand. We will do whatever we need to do to make this place better for the future. Mm-hmm. Leave it better than when we found it. And that's what I think you have. Mark, come on in, because I know you scratching over there. I see you itching.
Always scratching.
Do me a favor, though. The light. Bend your screen down a little bit. So, yeah, there you go. And I know
always scratching. Always got at least a couple of questions, and Anjane probably knows where I'm going with one of them and everything along those lines. But I'll keep them quick and succinct and to the point and everything. But just really quickly, because I know that Zach is very much into the musical game, and a lot of people forget about your own musical legacy, because you kind of alluded to it with dance, but people forget that you are related to royalty out of the New Orleans area and all along those lines with the Jordan family. And you mentioned funk and even having that tie to Sheila E., because even when your dad retired, you brought Sheila E. to town and all along those lines. So if you could talk about your own legacy to music and the importance of music, both funk music, jazz, blues, and just music in general, because like I said, your family on your mom's side, not your dad's side, is a legacy family.
Well, it is. I mean, my mother is the 16th child, and music was a really big part of her upbringing. Everyone in the house, they had to pick up an instrument. And so that's something that was huge, right? And so music is very much a part of my family and upbringing. I mean, even in my childhood home, today there's a baby grand, And so, music is just, it's present. It's like air. And so, yes, my cousins and my late uncle, Kid Jordan, who has taught amazing artists along the way, and also my uncle Alvin Baptiste, same. Uh, you know, that's family. And my cousin Rachel, she is dipping her feet in composing music, which that's exciting. My cousin Marlon, my cousin Kent, and my cousin Stephanie, who she's a vocalist. I mean, yes, we have a very strong musical family, and it's wonderful because I think I'm the dancer of the bunch. So, so it's amazing because there is just so much opportunity for collaboration we have, and my uncle. I mean, I do. My uncle Maynard. He was Preservation Hall. I mean, my is beyond the Jordan family. I mean, my is the Chatters, and yes, the Jordans and the Baptiste. I mean, it's just music is a part of my family legacy out of New Orleans, and so yes, it's exciting, and so therefore I think that's probably why I'm just always excited when I'm around musicians, because there's movement in music, and so therefore in that I'm always like, I'm just geeked up about it. So I get excited. So thank you for allowing that space. So yes, those who are listening, I am an artist through and through. I see the world like that, musically and movement wise.
It's great, and thank you for asking that, Mark, because we were talking a little bit about that when we first met, and we were talking about the process of the grants, and are we getting them, are we not getting them, what the holdup is, we dragging our feet. It wasn't anybody's fault that was at the meeting, obviously, because that's why we were having the meeting, right? So my thing is, there has been a systematic, and Mark, you can piggyback on this if you like, breakdown of artistical opportunities in schools across the United States. I don't know about other countries. I just know here. And there was a time when you could, it was just there. It was known you were going to either play sports, you were going to bring home an instrument, like you said, your whole family, right? So now, when you take things like that out of our community, and you kind of squelch their creativity, and then you give them no other choices, sometimes that one kid is that one gift in that music that may have been the one, or can be the one, or will be the one. And we need to figure out, as a group, how do we stop that? Because I've seen it myself, the systematic breakdown of what we can, how we get funding and how we can give it back. I taught at the School of Rock down here for 3 years, right? Very prestigious franchise. They're all over the North Carolina, a lot of them. Wealthy. Only wealthy kids could go there, or kids that were well off, right? There was only like 3 black students in the one, and I helped open the one up in Chapel Hill. I won't mention the owner's name. Nice guy, but he didn't have the vision of inclusiveness. So I quit, right? And then I said, well, how come I can't do that and just have a school of funk? I had to go to Virginia and hook up with my other funk band over there, Tony Cam and the Funk All Stars, and we've been doing it for 3 years, going on our 3rd year. We started it. He got the grant from Lynchburg Arts Council, and we opened it up to all anybody could come, pay their $35, a 1-day experience from pillar to post. We taught them how to load in, how to tune up, how to learn songs. We broke up in groups. We had lunch. We had workshops. And at the end of the day, we had a concert for the parents. We did all of this. Now, why is it that you or I or Mark would have to go and leave the state when I want to do it here? And that's where I have issues with where this money is at. I know the game. We all know the game. But we need art. So if you're listening out there and you can dedicate any time or money to any artistical program, please do so. I don't care if it's $1, because we need art. That's what makes the world go around. That's part of Anjane's background and her mindset. So please comment on that. Please, because I know we're going to get some comments from George for sure.
So I'm I'm definitely happy. And I'm looking at George's comment about all schools should bring back skills that pay the bills, like wood shop, electronics, foods, etc. And George, trades, yes, arts and trades. All of these things are choices that community has to have in terms of prioritizing to understand what's important. And the other part about that is, and I say this because from an educational perspective, in watching children, watching young people, oftentimes I think, and I say this with parents, recognizing when you have a creative child, a child that is inclined to pursue something artistically. Sometimes what happens is that presents itself in ways that could pigeonhole them in schools. So whether that is being a busybody, right? What one may say is a busybody, or someone who may challenge the status quo, or where things don't, when perspective, how they may approach things differently and not the norm. So there are different ways in which to understand the importance and the values of supporting the arts, because the arts takes you through so in terms of appreciation of life as a whole. Going to George's comment about trades, there is art in that. So the fact, like for instance, you have all these homes being built. And what's missing in many of them? Craftsmanship. The fact of people, the day of having real craftsmen, real woodworkers, that is a beautiful skill, an artistic ability. And those are the things where they've been pushed out and they're so valuable. And we're going to recognize that. We're going to recognize that as a workforce and as economic drivers. The world requires people who create. Right? Everything that you see requires an artist, their hand to it. And to not show value, and that value is not, oh, that's nice. That value is, we're going to put money to support the arts. We're going to support the arts in schools. We're going to support entrepreneurs who want to contribute those talents in corporate. I mean, there are so many ways in terms of looking to the arts and how we support. So I worked with North Carolina Arts Council, and that was my job. My job was to be able to receive applications, to look at work that was presented. Specifically, my world was dance, of course. But my colleagues had a very similar process. And immediately when I got it, I started to understand, oh, this is why we aren't receiving monies. This is why, oh, I didn't get that grant. And what I will say is, beginning and end, middle and end of the day, it is about who is in the room to review your work. It's very subjective. And so if you don't have someone fighting for you, right, then the chances of you getting that shot, and sometimes it has nothing to do with your ability, and your talent. Because best believe, I went to a conference, and it was about selecting, and it was about musicians, it was about actors, it was about dancers, it was about all. And in that room, I was the only woman, and I was the only person of color. No. And those decisions that day that I made, I was like, oh, wow, if this company didn't get it, then what's the hope for the rest of us? Because the artists that did get it, it was what I felt like, what I thought about was it was all about what was trendy, what could bring the most dollars, not because the work was good. It was because it was something quirky that would just yield attention, not because it was good.
Right.
Because what didn't get the funding was a legacy company of Black and brown dancers out of New York, phenomenal company, and they were passed over. And it was just like, wow, okay. But those decisions were made by people who were not in those spaces, didn't realize what they were looking at to make the best decision of who should have gotten that money. And so what I understand and what I've encouraged people, and that's when you go back to this process. Power exists when you are in the room, in a seat at the table. Because otherwise you're on the outside and you're saying all the things about why I didn't. What you have to make certain choices to position yourself. But also that has to be a willingness of people who are already in that position to bring you along in it.
Yeah.
And so I found it very important, and I still do, is to figure out how do I use my position where I am to bring along people that are well deserving, and meaning they're committed to the process, they're committed to getting better, to being a part of the work, right? And it also has to be being accountable for not putting bad stuff ahead creatively that then hurts the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Because artists have to be willing to stand strong. And look, I've had the opportunity of working with some of the most amazing artists. And I always, my intentions were pure in terms of, wanting us all to eat from this, right? But things fell short sometimes. It never stopped the work, though. The work was still the work. It's important for us as artists to figure out how do we position ourselves in space with people to be able to understand that we are a valuable resource to economic development.
Yeah.
Right? It's important for us as artists to realize when one breaks the line, it hurts us all. Right? It's important for artists to understand that we have value in conversation. We have to see ourselves differently, right? And that's me. I know who I am. I know that the air I breathe is like it's moving. No matter what, I dance through things. My lens is that way.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all applicable. Artists, we understand these processes because we live them every single day.
That's right.
And
I want to
now
ask you a quick question. I didn't mean to cut you off, right? Because we got a hard out. And
Go
the
ahead.
only reason I want to do a hard out in a little bit is because we like to cut these up into clips and we can't go over the 2 hours. But
All right.
I want to ask you two things real quick. I'll give you the last little bit of time and you can kind of say your last little bit just for this episode. But I'd like to invite you back on as much as you want to come on and
Yes.
also do a drop for me. And then even if you want to do some recorded stuff so we could play in between on other shows, and you could, Mark and you and myself, you could talk about it with Mark and just send, Mark knows what I need, right? So
Okay.
I'd like to do that. And then also too, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you've opened up a window of ideas that I can now pass on to other people. And I can say, well, you go back and watch this. And this is what this woman is about. And when you said connecting the dots, you wanted to know why things didn't work. That's why you need to be the mayor for that reason, because that's the problem, being in the room and having the power to say yay or nay. That's where it all comes down to, right? So
Yes.
if you in there, I know at least we got a shot. You know,
Yeah.
Mark, is there anything you'd like to add before we give Anjanae, our amazing guest, the full screen, and she can kind of, put a bow on today's episode. Everybody that tuned in, great.
No, I
2
was just
hours
gonna
goes by really fast.
2 hours goes by real fast. I'm just gonna bring up two things, and like I said, I know we're wrapping up, and she can bring it up when she comes back on future shows and everything. But I know, kind of to alluding to what you said, because I was in the rooms with her, just like I was in the room with you on a couple of your funk projects and everything. That I know that the Balan Dance Studio had some of those hard conversations about financing and about trying to get the public and the community to engage, because she did have a dance studio and still has a dance studio as well and everything. So she's been in those spaces that you're talking about, and those are some hard conversations. And I've been in those rooms with her as well as Calvin Anderson and some others. So I know the kind of conversations that she can bring to that and everything. And the last thing I was going to ask, and I'll ask it really quickly if she wants to touch on it, or she can save it for the next time that she's on the show, is the whole notion of legacy. And I know that I come from a family of legacy. You definitely, and you alluded to it, come from a family of legacy as well. So how is that double-edged sword a sword that you work through and everything like that? Because on one hand, it's great to have people that are in your family and in your ancestry that are part of your roots and part of what keeps you going, but it is something that puts extra pressure on you and everything like that. I know you can relate to that, and I know I can. So how do you deal with that, Anjanae?
It is. I think I'm fortunate, to have, with my mother. I've said this before. Both my mom and my father, they didn't. It never was ever. You never got too big for anything, right? And in this process, you get told many things, and some of that is just distance yourself and whatnot. And I just came to realize when I did the ABC interview and just made a choice. I made a choice for myself. I grew up in the house I grew up in. That's the reality for me. And anyone who will think otherwise, my father is who he is. He did what he did. And he was supported for many years. I was present for that as a young person. And I'm not going to run away from that because my father, whoever he was to someone else, I'm my own person. I respect what my father has done in this community and what it has brought about for Durham. And it's a double edge to anything. I think that what legacy has done is it's given me tools in my toolbox. There are so many things that I can pull from that clearly as a child I didn't appreciate. But now as a 48-year-old full whole adult, and that's key, I'm whole because I'm aware of, harm. I'm aware of the healing. I'm aware of the necessity. And I was telling someone just yesterday, the advice that I was given for so many years between my mom and my dad was, Anjanae, I swear if you could just listen more, you would go so far. And I have spent months, over a whole year, almost a year and a half listening. And I'm just like, gosh, you're right. So good. But I'm appreciative because it's privilege in a sense of it's opportunity to see things, be in spaces, because what it affords me is the opportunity to do what I'm doing right now. Is it makes me whole for people. It makes me humble in my ability to go into any space with anyone and connect. Those are what the tools I've been blessed with as a result of legacy, artistic legacy, service, political legacy, economical legacy. I'm appreciative, and I'm just choosing not to distance myself from it, because what I do know about myself, as in all of the years of my life, I stand on my own 2 feet. I have my own voice. I have my own thoughts. And I show up. Anjane shows up. Not my dad, not my mom. I show up. And that's one of the most important things. And when people choose to step into space to get to know me, they'll see that. You won't know that by the school I went to. You won't know that by the labels of jobs that I've had. You know that by being in spaces like these to listen to me, to be in conversation with me. And that's the only way you're going to get it. That's it. You have to show up. And I'm willing to show up for anyone who asks. Mark, he asked me to show up for you, Zach. And it was nothing but a call. Yes, that's it. Yes, that's as easy as it is. And so that's what I believe my legacy has provided for me. My legacy has provided me the understanding of the power of showing up for people and being authentic and not being too full of oneself. And that's also what my creative legacy brings about, right? And so even when you started this call, you had said, about me, the busyness, right? My time. And it'll never be that. I encourage people, no, because it's a choice still to show up. And when I'm here, I'm present with you. Yes. Are there other things that I need to be doing? Yes. But you know what? I believe where I am is where I'm meant to be. And so that's why I'm here with you. I didn't know what to expect. Thank you for welcoming me in. And what I want to leave behind is that this is how I lead. I lead by showing up when I'm called, right? I want to leave behind, get to know someone. You're standing from a weak position when you're only on the outside of a door. Step into the room, sit down with me, have a conversation. We can stand, it doesn't matter. But the bottom line is you have to join and be in conversation with me. Be in spaces to be in earshot. That's how you get to know a person. Otherwise, you're making assumptions and that's just it's not fair. And the idea that life is not fair, but the bottom line when it comes to people, that's why I find value in showing up, because I'm surprised. I love to learn, and I love the power of growing and being in space with people. And so thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mark. This has been an amazing start to the weekend, and I look forward to coming back. Thank you for endorsing.
Got you.
This is amazing. So yes, I don't want to take away from any of the time. You let me know. However else I can serve and help you, I'm here. And thank you.
You're quite welcome. It's for me, it was a pleasure, a blessing, a breath of fresh air. We had taken 2 weeks off because, we were just tired, and sometimes we'll do reruns. So to have you coming back on and live, it gave me a chance to reboot and think about other things. And every now and then we need that. And we need you. So if you are in Durham, North Carolina, and you are in earshot of this show, this is the woman that needs to go forward and take us into that place. And the key word that I got from you today was hope.
Yes. Yes.
We
need fuel, Zach.
Hope.
Well, we need fuel. So I'm gonna leave it on that. We need people and we need fuel. And fuel is i.e. we need contribution. So we can keep, so we can keep doing this work. And I think that's the other part. And I'll leave on that note. Sometimes that's the challenge with artists. People don't realize that fuel is necessary. It doesn't keep the work from being the work, but to really allow it to be amplified and to move and to grow and to truly root itself, you need resource. And that is something, if you believe in this movement that we are forming, if you believe in Durham, if you believe in better, if you believe in people and purpose over politics, if you believe in yourself, then yes, please support. We need the support. And as Cindy says, right, I talk about this all the time. It's not just about the people. This movement can be supported by people near and far. It's necessary because what it shows is that you believe in civic leadership, right? You believe in local, you believe in those efforts. And so my hope is that what we're growing is not something that people feel it's worthy of supporting only if financially, I mean, local. The dollars carry because the voice does. This becomes an example. So if all of the people who support funk from different parts of the world, it's like it's a band of artists. It's the same philosophy. The dollar, it moves things. And so it allows us to speak bigger than Durham, North Carolina. It allows us to be an example in Texas, in other parts of the world. And that's my hope for what we're doing. And clearly, yes, we are here in Durham, but this is something that I believe has the ability to move well beyond, because it should be an example. We need more local governments, cities to understand, people to understand about protecting, like doing things for the greater and good beyond yourself. I don't want to live I live here in this world, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I just want to do as much as I can with the time I'm afforded. So thank you very much, Zach. Thank you to your viewers.
It's been great. And let me tell you, this is just the first of many. This is our journey starting together, you and I and Mark and your whole coalition and what we want to help you do. And, of course, you got a funk band anytime you need one.
Yes.
So we'll talk. We'll get together and chat today. Thank you all for hanging out with us on Funk from the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV. It's been amazing. We're taking us right down to the wire. So we're going to run a little bit of spiritual purpose. We're going to get out at hard too. But please hang out for a minute because there is something I want to ask you off air. We appreciate you, everybody. And we'll see you guys next week. And this is just the first of many with this beautiful woman that will be, I'm going to put it out there, will be the mayor. So y'all hang tight. All right. See y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, coming at you. Y'all hear me out there? This is what I'm talking about. We're all connected. I want you to get up on this one, all right? Come on, join us. This is how we're going to kick it. Come on, here we go. Yeah, there's a spiritual purpose. Yeah, you know how it is. The Lord Jesus Christ. Here we go. There's a spiritual purpose. Love each other. That's what this whole thing is about, y'all. Nothing but love for you. I can hear you calling me. What? 4 months on a ship. What a trip. Yeah, man. What a slave. 10,000 miles away from the motherland. I can relate to that, right? What have we done wrong? We don't understand. There's a spiritual purpose. For everyone in the world, there's a spiritual purpose. Man, woman,